shine in the morning sun. Egypt's wisdom meets everyone. Edu-Next-AI calls the world to see a future we're building for you and me. Egypt co-codes the future hand in hand. AI at the Nile's edge we stand. From our roots to the stars we soar high. Edu-Next-AI we rise, we try. Learning together bright and free. The Nile carries our destiny. The Nile carries our destiny.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second session during our conference today. It is a great honor to introduce our distinguished keynote speakers for today's session, AI in Instructional Design, Evolving Partnerships for Better Outcomes. Are fortunate to be joined by two leaders from the University of Central Florida's Center for Distributed Learning. First, Mr. Kevin Ford, Assistant Vice Provost at the Center of Distributed Learning. Alongside him, we welcome Dr. Rhiannon Pollard, Director of Instructional Design at the Center for Distributed Learning Division of Digital Learning. Together, they will guide us through an important conversation on how artificial intelligence is shaping instructional design and how evolving partnerships can help us achieve better outcomes. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Kevin and Dr. Rhiannon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. We are humbled and honored for the invitation and the opportunity to present today. We'd like to welcome everybody that's joining from Cairo and as well as those joining from across the globe. And great to see our colleague Christine from UCF here as well. What we're going to do today is talk a little bit about how AI can play a role as a partner in the instructional design process and highlight some of the efforts that we're doing here at the University of Central Florida. So before we get too far into this, let me just introduce ourselves a little bit more formally. I'm Kevin Corcoran. I oversee the Center for Distributed Learning here at the University of Central Florida. This is an entity that really oversees digital education and online learning. And I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Rhiannon Pollard. Rhiannon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks. I really appreciate the invitation to be here. As Kevin mentioned, and Dr. Noha Saeed also, I'm the Director of Instructional Design for the Center for Distributed Learning at the University of Central Florida. And I've been working on and as instructional design in higher education for going on 20 years. So really excited to talk to you about this.
And I apologize if Christine has already covered some of this, but I think it's important to set the context of where we're coming from as we present information. So the University of Central Florida is located in Orlando, Florida in the United States. For reference points, we're about 30 minutes outside of Disney World, SeaWorld, and Universal Studios. So we are in the mecca of amusement parks. We do have just shy of 70,000 students. We have a very diverse population. We have a designation. It is a Hispanic serving institution, meaning that we have a large population of our student population that are Latinx in background. We also have over 13,000 staff and faculty supporting those 70,000 students across a total of 250 degree programs, graduate and undergraduate and certificate programs. And because our focus, Rhiannon and my focus is online, we have to at least note that we have gotten some national recognition within the United States around having innovative and best-in-class online programs at UCF. And because we're going to more focus on the instructional design process and supporting digital and online education, we thought we'd just add a little bit of context again that UCF has been doing online learning digital education for 25 plus years. We have almost 90% of our students taking some form of online learning experience at some point in time. And we have about 10% of our total population that are fully remote. These are folks who never come on campus, solely complete their baccalaureate or their graduate degree solely online. And we've had some great success metrics with those students participating in these online formats. For the context that Rhiannon and I are coming from, we are in the Center for Distributed Learning, which is a little bit of a dated term, but essentially it is anything that is a technology-enhanced classroom that is predominantly digitally delivered or delivered online. And the role that we play really is around supporting faculty across a variety of services that include content production, media production, training, assessment, platform support. And so when Rhiannon talks, she's going to really come in from a focus of that faculty development, faculty support, and course design elements. So with that, let me turn it over to Rhiannon to talk a little bit more about our processes.
Thanks. So as Kevin said, the role of my team is really to provide faculty development and support the design and teaching of online courses at UCF. So I wanted to kind of walk you through some scenarios to illustrate the importance of instructional design and also the importance, as things change, of incorporating AI into that process. So in a world where instructors are actually solely responsible for designing their online courses, which was the case for a very long time, instructional design has really become more of a commonplace, everyday occurrence in higher education, only probably over the last 20 years as online learning really came in. That brought with it the wave of recognizing that instructional design is a field that exists and the value that it can add to the course development, curriculum development process. So in a lot of institutions where instructional design is still kind of getting its way in and it hasn't become a daily occurrence, you have the instructor responsible for all aspects of designing a course, understanding how to teach it online, understanding how to put it online, understanding how to work with students in the online space. And so the faculty member has to do the whole thing. And what that means is that an instructor, a faculty member who is trained in their field, let's say a chemistry professor, they are top in their field in chemistry. They're experts at what they know, at what they do in chemistry. And then you need to take that chemist and make them also be an expert at course design and teaching and online teaching and all of these kinds of things. So it creates a situation where the instructor really has to be an expert in all kinds of things that they've probably never been trained on. They don't necessarily know how to do. They're kind of struggling their way through this process and doing the best they can. It's difficult, it's overwhelming. So I've got on this slide just some of the things that an instructor needs to know when that happens. Kevin, could you advance? Thanks. And so the instructors who are doing this have to work for a very long time, often in a stop and start kind of way. They work on their course for a couple of weeks and then they've got a research project due, so they're shifting to another thing. They've got to teach the class they're already teaching. So it ends up being often a 6 to 12 month process to get one course finished online. And in the process, it's really overwhelming and difficult for the faculty member. We can go to the next slide now. And unfortunately, sometimes what you end up with is a lot of hard work put in to a course that ends up looking not that great and being kind of a challenging experience for the students who are actually trying to take the course. So, the poor faculty member has done their absolute best and they've really tried and they've gotten it all together and maybe the content is amazing, but because they don't really know how to design courses for the student experience, we kind of sometimes can end up with a less than ideal product, which is really unfortunate given the amount of work that it can take sometimes. So enter instructional designers. We can advance the slide. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what are instructional designers, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So instructional designers are really, I use this metaphor that they're the mechanics for the race car driver. So you want your faculty member to be in the driver's seat, speeding along and doing the thing that they do, which is teaching their subject. But if their car is breaking down all the time, they are not the ones who know how to fix it. So instructional designers know how to keep the car, the online course, running and designed in a way that it's not going to break down the minute you turn it on. So they bring their skills and knowledge to course development so the faculty can focus on teaching their subject matter. And the expertise that they have are in all of the psychology around learning, around how people learn, about how best to design teaching in ways that support student learning. They know about pedagogical strategies, like if you want to teach writing, there's certain ways you teach it that are very different than how you might teach math and things like that. And so the instructional designer has access to all of these, all this knowledge and skills to help the specific subject matter and the specific instructor with what they want to do to make it the best possible learning experience for students. And they're also technologists and they know about information literacy. So they know how to find resources that will support the students' learning. They can help, liaise with librarians. Often instructional designers have past lives as librarians. So they just bring a lot of skills and they can handle the technology so that the faculty member doesn't have to focus on that. And they also are, as a generalization, instructional designers tend to be really creative problem-solving individuals. Their whole job is to identify potential problems and create solutions along the way and think about what could be future problems and build in preventative strategies on the front end. And they also know how to evaluate the quality of learning and student outcomes and things like that. So this is what a typical instructional designer can bring to the table. We can go to the next slide. And so when you put an instructor who has all the knowledge of their industry, their discipline, their subject matter, with an instructional designer who knows all the things about how to best to teach and learn how best to teach so that students learn, especially online and with technology, what you get is really effective learning, an improved learner experience, and all kinds of ways of teaching that the instructor may never have thought of. So in the US, there's sort of this saying that higher education is typically the sage on the stage. So you can imagine a professor standing behind a podium, giving a lecture, maybe kind of writing things on the board, and the students are just passive absorbers of the information. And so most professors, that's how they learned. So when they go to teach, that's the way that they think they should teach. Excuse me. So when you've got an instructional designer in the mix, they can open up the possibility of doing teaching differently, creating environments where the students are working together on problem-based learning, and they're solving real-world problems. They're doing case studies. They're doing experiential learning where their assignments are to go out into the world and have conversations with people who work in the jobs that they're in. So sometimes a lot of faculty, in my experience, a lot of faculty just don't think that way. They're very focused on this is how teaching has always been done. And so an instructional designer can bring in some really creative ways to help the learning be more engaged with the students. And also things that we don't want to neglect, also universal design for learning, which is where you make sure that you have multiple ways of the students accessing the material. So it might be reading, it might be watching videos, it might be listening to podcasts, it might be doing activities. So just making sure that students from all kinds of different uh, learning um, styles, shall we say, have access to the material in an equitable way, and also making it accessible for students with disabilities and things like that, you know, to make sure that there's captions and all those things. Um, Again, that instructors often don't even think about because it's just not on their radar. And of course, instructional designers also can help with making things really innovative. You know, their job is to know what's the latest technology, what's the best way we can possibly do this. And they have a role to play in, you know, making course content available on mobile devices for students for adult learners who are working while they study and things like that. Um, so you can see all the good reasons to partner with an instructional designer. And when you do, Kevin, you can go to the next slide. Um, you get a high quality course in the end. And what this list of many many things here is really to just emphasize all of the aspects that could be part of a really high quality course. And if you just kind of poke through this list a little bit, the idea of an instructor on their own knowing all of these things and all of the pieces that make a high quality education, it can be really overwhelming. So the instructional designer can ensure all of these things come through in their course. We could advance the slide. And when you work with an ID, when you're an instructor partnering with an ID, that timeline of 6 to 12 months of start and stop headaches and trying to develop your course content all by yourself gets shrunk because you've got a partner who's going to take a lot of that load and help you focus on your content while they work on the other pieces of the course. So you've got about half the amount of time that it can take to work with an instructional designer versus working on your own. And so we look at a typical 5 to 6 month development cycle when an instructor is partnering with an instructional designer. If you've got a team of instructional designers with like a high production team where you've got also a video crew and other people kind of helping, which is the case nowadays in a lot of institutions, you can get that down to 4 months. And so that's a massive time saving and a massive cognitive offloading for the instructor. We can go to the next slide. And just a little example of what you can get out of it is instead of that purple screenshot I showed you with buttons everywhere and no clear, not sure, the student might not be sure what to do, you can end up with a course that makes a lot of sense to the student who's trying to take the course online, where they know what the next step is, they know what they're supposed to be learning, they understand how everything fits together, and they can just kind of go along with the course. We can advance the slide. So now we went from the instructor doing everything by themselves to an instructor partnering with an ID. And now all of a sudden, generative AI happens, and we've got new tools and a lot of different perspectives from the faculty members in terms of this is the best thing ever or this ruined my life. So we can go to the next slide. And so if we go back to that scenario where the instructor's doing it on their own, and now they're faced with the AI reality, the instructor is going to have to figure all of this out on their own. How are they going to now incorporate AI? Oh no, my students are going to use AI. What do I do about that? There's a lot of fear and anxiety. We already know that faculty often struggle to incorporate technology in their courses anyway. And now you've got this AI technology that is just evolving every single day. So we've got faculty who are going to feel even more fatigue and instability and are already skeptical because they're afraid of their students using AI in their courses. There's all this pressure on them that they need to redesign their assignments to protect against AI. It's frustrating. There's often not enough training, or there can be too much training. And so faculty just don't know how to sort out what's worth their time and what's not. And often institutions are still in the process of developing their policies around AI. So the faculty member doesn't even know which way they should lean. Should they allow it? Should they not allow it? Do they need to redesign things? Do they need to tell students not to use it? So it just creates a really complicated, frustrating, and and sometimes anxiety-inducing situation for faculty. And it's not necessarily, I think faculty sometimes get a bad name, and we say that they're resistant to change or resistant to technology. And it's really not that so much as that there's a mismatch between what their responsibilities are as faculty member and the way things are changing so quickly and what they need to know. And so again, the instructional designer as the intermediary of that experience can be incredibly helpful. So we can go to the next slide. So when you've got an instructor working with an instructional designer, all of that AI stuff is part of what IDs do. I mentioned before that it's their job, it is their part of their role to be aware of and using and learning to incorporate new technologies. And AI is just another one of those tools for the average instructional designer. So being trained to kind of reverse engineer how learning works, they're trained to experiment with technology, they're trained to think about where they can find efficiencies in their work and for faculty. And they understand how to transfer skills across contexts. So they're really the ideal population of workers in higher education to take on AI and to be the supporters of it for faculty. So when you've got an instructor and an ID and AI, and these partnerships expand to include AI tools and AI strategies, what you end up with is a lot more opportunities for creative brainstorming in terms of thinking about how to teach your specific content. You've got the opportunity to automate a lot of tasks that were incredibly time consuming in the past, such as captioning videos. We used to have to hand write the captions for videos. Now AI can do it in 3 minutes or less often. You have the opportunity to automate some of the organization of content in online courses, to check on or help with aligning your objectives to your assessments, with creating summaries of content. That's another thing that IDs used to have to help faculty write the introductory summary to a module of content. And now you can put your content in AI and ask for a summary and you're done. So there's a lot of ways that IDs can kind of take that load and make all of this faster for faculty, and especially in terms of providing review and feedback on faculty submitted content and these kinds of things. It's just faster now. So all of this leads to a significantly streamlined course development timeline. We can go to the next slide. So at UCF, because we've seen how quickly, so we went from a 12-month faculty working on their own to 5 to 6 months working with an instructional designer on their own, to now we've got AI in the mix. UCF, my team, is about to start piloting a 10-week course development cycle for new courses. So down from 5 to 6 months to a 10-week process, because we can leverage AI tools and make the whole thing just go a lot faster and be higher quality, because we've got another set of digital eyes checking on all of the content as we go. We can go to the next slide. So as I just mentioned, we've gone from a 12-month design to a 6-month design to potentially a 10-week design. And as I said, we're just piloting this now, but I won't be surprised if we can actually get it to less than 10 weeks, especially for a course that already exists that we're migrating into an online space from a face-to-face situation. Go to the next slide, please. Thanks. And so this is an example of a course that was built using AI. So in the process that I just mentioned, where we had content from the instructor, we had the instructional designer use AI to build it, and we've got I'm going to say an even prettier course aesthetic experience. The visuals of the course and the structure of the course are even nicer. And this took 10 minutes instead of a couple of weeks to do. So go ahead to the next slide. So that's where we are right now. We've incredibly streamlined and added so many efficiencies, and really I do think that this is going to be a higher quality output in the end. And Kevin will now talk to us a little bit about some of the use cases for the tools that we're using.
Yeah, and just to build on what Rhiannon has shared and set a little bit more context, we do have over 2,000 faculty. While we do have 20 instructional designers on staff, and we have a number of folks supporting content development through graphics and media, there are hundreds of thousands of courses and students that we're supporting. So we do have to be mindful of scale. And the way that UCF has handled this historically has been more of a consultant with faculty. So it hasn't been your traditional full design assistance where the faculty hand over all of their course content and set an instructional designer off separately to design, build, and then produce an output. It has been a cooperative partnership where the instructional designer and the faculty are working on a regular basis and providing feedback and enhancement. Our faculty are assigned an instructional designer, a dedicated instructional designer for the length that they're serving at UCF. So if somebody's been with the institution for 20 years, they've probably had the same instructional designer supporting them through that length of time. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how we're actually implementing AI in our processes right now. Some of the screenshots I'll be showing are either tools that are fully vetted, some that are in the process of being revised, some, as Rhiannon mentioned, are being beta tested right now. But really what we're doing is, regardless of the platform, we are using AI in our consultations with our faculty to help with that brainstorming, that creative brainstorming process. And this could be ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Claude, whatever the case may be. This is an opportunity to have a conversation about what are the goals, what are the objectives of the learning, who is the student audience, are there any potential barriers or nuances that we should be aware of? And then think about what type of activities and assessments might be appropriate and what types of approach. And that may be, do we want to make this a project-based learning where it's collaborative, where there's an end result? Do we want to implement open pedagogy where the student is invited to be either creator or co-contributor to an openly licensed product? So there's a number of ways that we can interact with a faculty member using AI to map out and perhaps enhance what those stated learning objectives are. In addition to that, if there are starting documents, maybe there is a course syllabus, maybe there's a course outline, those tools, those documents can be uploaded into some of the platforms that we have and can be assessed for opportunities to implement these collaborative pieces. So we do have an open pedagogy syllabus advisor, which can scan through a submitted syllabi and identify opportunities for student collaboration or co-creation within that, and provide step-by-step instructions for the designer to assist the faculty member in implementing that type of assessment or activity strategy. The same could be said for the UDL analyzer. Well, it will go through and anticipate potential barriers to student learning based on reading levels, activity set, timelines, what have you. So there is a number of ways that just in that initial review and that initial course planning that AI can be of assistance before you actually do the hard work of actually developing the course. Now, when we get to how we're going to assess students, AI can be a tremendous asset in really thinking through that assessment strategy. Now, I want to start by identifying or tying back to a theme that Rhiannon mentioned. There may be some of your colleagues, or maybe even yourself, that are hesitant or concerned about the use of AI and student academic integrity. You know, what we might suggest is thinking about really focusing on measuring what matters. If your course is really not focused on grammar, sentence structure, punctuation, perhaps that's not something you necessarily have to worry about. And using Grammarly or some other AI tool is allowed for students to enhance their messaging. And if they're really focused on analytics and evaluation, then really focusing on those human contributions. And then with the aid of the instructional designer, when you've come upon an assessment strategy, it's always good to validate that assessment strategy through AI. So taking that assessment, having AI actually run through it and produce a probable outcome. So at least you can see if students do use this in sort of a non-ethical way, what might be a typical output from AI and how you can adjust your assessment strategy to maybe put more onus on evaluation and reflection, those more human elements. And if they are going to use AI in a writing process, how can you design that assessment so it's an iterative drafting process and that the students are doing some self-assessment on what the output of AI is? Are there inherent biases that they are noticing? Are there hallucinations and inaccuracies? Why do they think that the AI produced it in this format, and why is it better than their initial draft? So really focusing on process analysis versus actually production. Now, beyond that, AI can also be used for engagement within that activities and assessment piece. There are numerous ways you can use AI for role playing and scenario building. Depending on what the scenario is, you can set up a scenario where the student is being asked to interact with the AI, where the AI is given a certain scenario and certain parameters to prompt the students to questions. So you can assess their evaluation, their judgment, their process thinking, and the AI can be given a rubric to provide feedback to the student in real time on how they're responding, if they're missing critical elements or critical questions in that process. So this is part of that whole assessment design strategy that the instructional designer would be working with the faculty member using AI to really identify potential gaps, but also how AI can be used to enable and enrich that student engagement piece. When we get to the point where we're actually starting to curate content across the board, there are a number of ways that AI can be used to do some evaluation of that content. Now, one of the screenshots here is a platform called Edu-It, which is an accessibility tool that UCF has built and is integrated into our learning management system. And what this will do is actually perform a variety of accessibility tests using the international WCAG standards, the accessibility standards, to go through all of the content in the course in less than 5 minutes and identify a remediation plan. So it will go through each module, each object, and say, there is an issue with this image, there is a formatting issue, these are the potential barriers, and not only identifying those, but providing opportunities to fix and suggestions on how to fix. So the faculty member does not need to be an expert within accessibility, but they can work with their instructional designer to walk through those potential barriers. As an extension, once we have the course a little bit more in a formalized format, we can actually work through using an established quality rubric like a Quality Matters or an online learning consortium rubric or what have you, to actually go through that same course process and look for those standards and see if the course content meets those qualities. This process historically for us has ranged from a 2-hour to 8-hour commitment for our instructional designers when they've gone through. Now, within a 5-minute process, the instructional designer can get a summary score and notes that then they can go and spot check the course and identify specific areas within that course and present options for the faculty. So that evaluation time of 2 to 8 hours can be reduced to potentially 20 minutes of prep time in advance of a conversation with the faculty member. I'm teasing on this next slide or this last bullet around a student workload calculator, and I want to show that in a full screen mode here. So we have embedded a tool that another US institution has created, Wake Forest University, has created this student course workload estimator that really helps think through the amount of time that a student may need to invest based on all of the assigned readings and all the number of pages assigned, the number of discussion posts, and the amount of time that is expected to do that, the number of assessments, exams, quizzes, what have you, the number of papers and the number of words or pages that may be assigned. It takes all of those different parameters that are either ingested from that intake or extracted from the course itself through that AI review process or inputted through a form, and provides an output, an estimated output based on the length of the course. So I think Rhiannon mentioned before that we have some courses that are going from a 15-week course length being condensed anywhere from 8 weeks to 5 weeks to 4 weeks. Well, when we do that and we want to maintain the same rigor and the same outcomes, we have to really assess where those choke points might be. And so this is a great tool of providing the instructional designer and the faculty member where there might be an abundance of responsibility or commitment for the students. And then within the next phase of this calculation is a content analysis where we look at, okay, well, these are the priority learning outcomes that you must keep. The AI is suggesting, well, these are concepts and topics that are must-haves to meet those learning objectives. These are things that are foundational, and these are maybe things that are nice to know. In that AI platform, the instructional designer has the ability to work with the faculty member to modify those. If something is a nice to know and it's deprioritized, the faculty can work with the ID to reconfigure on the fly within the click of a button to say, oh, no, we must have this. This is a mandatory piece. Can be deprioritized as a nice to know. And so there is this dynamic remapping of the course content and workload using AI. In addition to that, this assessment through the AI tool is also looking at barriers specific to the accelerated format. And so it goes back to that workload piece and saying, perhaps you are providing too much reading or too much writing that the student can actually commit to within that given time period. And again, there are ways to use this AI tool to sort of tweak that course map to still maintain that rigor and that overall learning objective, but right size the content and the assessment and the activity structure. So this is just a snapshot of the overall platform that is being piloted right now, that is being used for this acceleration from a longer term to a shorter form piece. But this platform has so many other elements that can aid an instructional designer and a faculty member in the course design process. So it is helping gathering that course information, those objectives, and looking at alignment. It is looking at any content that may be available and doing that workload analysis as well as a quality review analysis on here. And then once we've gotten to a game plan with the instructional designer and the faculty member where they have an agreed upon structure, it can actually automate the module and the content generation within the learning management system. Now we're using Instructure's Canvas to do this, and it can generate a file that you can ingest into Canvas that will create the 8-week or 15-week structure, set up all of the headers and parameters, start to pre-populate all the content within a click of the button. And again, referring back to what Rhiannon shared, where we were looking at a 12-month process reduced to a 6-month process, potentially down to a 10-week or less process. As soon as we get a chance to really see this in action, we may even be able to reduce that overall time frame even more. I want to share one last thing before I turn it back over to Rhiannon, is that we are also working with our faculty to embed tools and approaches that support the student usage of AI. So not only are we developing content that can be dropped into the courses as an orientation to AI so that students have fundamental skills around AI literacy, it's also providing some templated language around guidance and stating when can AI be used, which tools are allowed, in what format, and what are the expectations of student usage and disclosure of AI. But beyond that, we've embedded some tools that allow students to interact with course content, reducing the overall commonly asked questions to the faculty member and providing point-in-time reference points to content within the course. Now, we've built this tool that I have a screenshot, but ChatGPT in its latest mode has a study mode. There are other tools that can provide flashcards and self-check quizzes and a number of tools that the students can utilize to do self-checks. But there's also the opportunity to use AI to do some form of personalization. Students can use this to do format shifts. If they can take a document, they can change it and use AI to turn it into an audio. Notebook LM is a way to turn it into a podcast. There's way for AI to provide scaffolded learning. So if there are complex contexts or complex concepts that the students don't have the foundations for, AI can explain those conceptual pieces so that they can progress within the course. So with that, let me move forward and talk about our future roadmap. So Rhiannon, please tell us where we're going nationally.
So as we think about the field of instructional design in the age of AI, so through research that's ongoing and just kind of a deep understanding of the instructional design field in general, the predictions are that the roles of instructional designers are, as consultants with faculty, as partners in the course development, program development relationship. We see that they will be leaning in more to the really uniquely human aspects of collaboration that they can provide, as well as continuing to be the intermediaries of technology for faculty and administrators. The skills that they will really be able to add value with are the humanization of learning. So their ability to ensure that ethical standards are being woven into learning, that there is empathy in the teaching and learning process. And instructional designers are really good at helping, even in AI enhanced learning experiences, in ensuring that the instructor's voice and their personality can really shine through the content, which is easier than you might think to get lost. Their expertise at strategic development, for really being able to think about what is this student audience that you're teaching, and what is the context of the kinds of skills that they need to learn, and helping to make really smart and strategic instructional decisions about the strategies within the teaching process. They are experts at complex structural planning, and all of these things are things that AI is not very good at. We expect that will change down the line. Who knows how it will evolve? But these complex tasks tend to be things that the human intervention is most important for. So when you're talking about planning an overall program, courses within the program, sequencing courses in a way that makes sense for the goals of the program, ensuring that the content is, as I said, meaningfully embedded into the institutional and societal ecosystem. So the order of courses, the relevance of the content to what the student's ultimate job is going to be, those kinds of things. And also high value creative work. So yes, AI can generate images, and that's great. But the ability to create and curate really nuanced experiences for students, sorry, and ensuring that all of the experiences for students are really learner centric. Those are the kinds of things where it's ensuring IDs have a really strong ability to ensure and to remind instructors that the learning experiences need to be from the student's perspective. So to ensure that they're that what they're getting out of it is really what is intended in the end. So all of these kinds of things, AI is still not good at, and probably won't be, because it really requires a bigger picture understanding of the institution as a whole, and the programs as a whole, and the individual faculty member as well, and the student audience. So we think that they will continue to leverage the tools in the way that the tools evolve, while still injecting this human consultative perspective. Kevin, I think you're up.
So just to maybe share where we at UCF are looking, we've shared a number of platforms that are either in development or being utilized in some form or fashion. But where we see AI assisting our instructional designers is providing even greater support. With a team of 20 instructional designers, there are folks that have specializations and stronger skills in one area or another. And we see AI as a way of level setting the skill set and the service that we provide to our faculty. So we're hoping to build an internal LLM that allows us to take that combined expertise, whether it may be in gamification, game-based design, accessibility, universal design for learning, and take our resident experts and have them contribute to this knowledge base that can benefit their colleagues that may not have that same specialization or focus. And in addition, recognizing that we have a number of designers who are using AI in their own individual faculty consultations and may have a library of prompts that they're using to do repetitive tasks or assist, developing a way to actually have a collection of those prompts that can be shared across our designers or across instructional designers more broadly, that would all benefit one another. And again, that ties into this repetitive task piece. But we're going to continue to look for ways to embed AI that directly aids students. There are a number of conversations that are happening at UCF and globally around a student assistant or a study bot that can be this holistic tool that can really help students be on top of when deadlines are, or remind them of expectations or rubrics, but also connect them to the greater institutional or university experience on critical dates and what have you. And then we want to continue to build out our ability to do an evaluation of course quality, not only at the course level, but at the program level, and really scan the course and the program and make sure that all of the courses within a given program are at that same quality level and that their outcomes are aligned across the board. So we've provided a few resources, and one more, there will be one more resource we'll add to this that I was remiss in adding. UCF 2 years ago launched a AI repository, and I know that my colleague Wendy is online. I don't know if she can drop this link, but we have a repository that's called Trail. The acronym is really for AI-infused learning lesson plans. And so it is a collection globally of openly licensed lesson plans that faculty have submitted to this repository that really provide step-by-step instructions on how they've embedded AI into a particular learning path that can be adapted and adopted as you see fit. We also are in some conversations about creating a repository attached to this of AI prompts that faculty are using within that that student engagement process. But some of the select resources we have here that are free or mostly free, and I have to note that I'm doing this from the context of the United States. I don't know if there are international considerations with these tools, but Arizona State University has a toolkit of AI tools that support instructional design and faculty development. But one in particular is an accessible image generator. It can take complex images like maps, handwritten documents, and provide detailed alt text and description formats that are really on target. Napkin AI is a free tool that will allow you to take text and turn those texts into visuals, whether those are graphics or pie charts or what have you. And it's context specific, and it can generate those graphics without you inputting the data. It'll actually recognize the data and translate that for you. I mentioned Notebook LM as a way to convert text to audio, and they do have an opportunity to create some long text forms into podcast-like formats, but it's also an opportunity to take a number of documents and create a personalized LLM or knowledge base for you. Edu-AI is a great collection of free AI tools that can help create flashcards, learning objectives, discussion threads. It's just a nice collection of tools. And Synthesia is a nice tool that does text to video. You can create avatars. There is a cost for using that in broad form, but there is a limited free version of that. And lastly, Rosebud AI is a wonderful way to create game-based learning without knowing any code. You can basically interact in free text and say, I would like a game that enhances X, Y, and Z, and I'd like to do this and that. And it'll generate all the code for you and provide it in a playable format. I see my colleague Wendy has her hand up. Wendy, did you want to chime in real quick?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt, but before you move on, I have the link handy. I just don't see a chat available to put it in. So
I
just let me know how
actually,
you want it shared.
yeah, Kevin, I just added it to the PowerPoint, so we'll share that as a PDF and it has the link in it. Thank you.
You got it.
Great, thank you. So Rhiannon has provided some supporting references to our presentation, but we really wanted to provide some time for any questions that you might have of us. So we are happy to field questions either through the Q&A or folks coming off mic, but before we
Yes,
don't have the
they
time.
can use their
Thank you.
mics, okay? Just raise your hand if you have any questions and I will let you talk. So please.
Well, we do have one hand up. Please go ahead.
I think it's me. Thank you so much, Kevin and Rhiannon, for the amazing session. I myself was thinking, well, Central Florida is too early now, but what's better than starting with educating people in the early morning? You're going to have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So my question is, now instructional design is a totally new topic to many teachers. And especially for instructors who are at university level and they're designing, they will have to design their own courses and they will have to teach them as well. I don't know how certified, or how can I say, how ethical is it using AI to actually construct or to build materials to be taught at the university level? Like what kind of materials do we feed the AI to therefore create the content to us and to be trusted? And how much human oversight does it have to actually trust those products?
I bet we both want to answer this. We can
Go
take
first.
different aspects. Okay. So as someone who kind of oversees a team of instructional designers, my personal perspective is that especially at the university level, AI should not be used to create content. The content should come from the subject matter expert, which is the faculty member, the professor. But what AI is helping us do really well is think about strategies for teaching that content, for how we can design better assessments, better videos, better, bits and pieces of the course to ensure that what is being delivered of the content is done in the best possible way. In our case, and I'm sure Kevin will talk more about this, in our case, the AI that we're using is sort of private to UCF. So it's not going back out into the general ChatGPT models. So we do have a safety of intellectual property. So when content is being put into AI to ask it to assess it or analyze it, it's staying within UCF. So we have a little bit of safety there. But my personal stance, and I don't think most faculty would argue with me, is that we're not using AI to create the content. We're using it to help strategize the content. I'll let Kevin talk now.
Yeah, and I think it's around the definition of content. We are certainly not asking AI to develop the full course content. We are perhaps encouraging brainstorming where we're refining pieces, we're using AI to perhaps provide enhancements that may be actually developing elements of content. So we may ask AI to assess a complex topic and provide an image representation that may be something that helps the students understand that. It may be that we're asking AI to create a 2-minute explainer video to preface a complex area, but there has to be human oversight at all aspects because AI still hallucinates. There are inherent biases depending on the agent and how it's being trained. So we can never just fully set education on AI and assume that it's going to guide our students in the right direction. So I don't think we were too far off, Rhiannon.
No, we have a question in the chat that is a really great question. So it says, my question is about the quality of AI output. Sometimes we have incorrect, biased, or superficial answers, and our students can accept them without questioning. How can we get over this? Do you want to take this one?
I think I'll start and then I'll throw it back. Is that, that evaluation and reflection piece is critical. So recognizing and being transparent that this came from AI, but defending why you believe this particular piece. So having that human element or that human contribution to the answer is going to help identify errors in logic or processing that can assist the faculty member and also can identify where it's just being regurgitated from an AI prompt. Rhiannon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in terms of students accepting AI responses as truth, one of the things that we're trying to do even institutionally is educate the students in every single course using guidelines and kind of AI policies that the instructor can use to remind the students that AI is not always accurate. So like Kevin said, when we're using it in course development, the need for a human to verify what AI is producing is 100% always the case. We have to verify because we know that it can hallucinate, it can just be wrong, and it can really believe that it's right. And so you can't just trust it, but it can be a really helpful starting point. And so we really just have, it's a process of education. Along with educating the students about the subject matter, this AI literacy piece comes in where it's the responsibility of the instructors in the courses to remind them all the time that AI can be wrong. And I think in what I've seen from students is that they do understand that. I know my own children in high school are so skeptical of AI. They're like, don't use AI. It's always wrong. It doesn't know anything. So we might want to give students a little bit more credit, but I think constantly just reminding them of that piece. I've seen it's more likely that faculty think that it's right than students, especially in the Generation Alpha and those folks.
I want to be mindful of time and that the next session is probably starting soon. And so again, I just want to say thank you all for the invitation, and we really appreciated your time.
We can't hear you, Dr. Noha.
Yeah, thank you very much. As we conclude this thought-provoking session, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to Mr. Kevin and Dr. Rhiannon for sharing their expertise and vision with us today. On behalf of Edu-Next-AI and our digital conference today, thank you, Mr. Kevin and Dr. Rhiannon, for inspiring us with your perspectives and for guiding us in reimagining the future of teaching and learning. And thank you to our participants for engaging in this important conversation. Together, we continue to shape the future of education. Thank you very much. It is it's a great honor and a privilege to have you in our conference today. I highly appreciate that you accepted our invitation and being with us today. Thank you in behalf of Edu-Next-AI, and we hope to see you again and again in Egypt, virtually and face-to-face, of course. We are going to open our grand museum, and will be a very great opportunity to have you all in Egypt. It will be a very great event in Egypt, and we will have people from all over the world, and it will be nice to have you all here. Thank you very much.
Waves shine in the morning sun. Egypt's wisdom meets everyone. Edu-Next-AI calls the world to see a future we're building for you and me. Egypt co-codes the future hand in hand. AI at the Nile's edge we stand. From our roots to the stars we soar high. Edu-Next-AI we rise, we try. Learning together bright and free. The Nile carries our destiny. The Nile carries our destiny.